Good evening. You're watching India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Before we get the big stories, let's get you the headlines this Tuesday evening. First up, Prime Minister Modi arrives in Brunei in the first leg of its historic two-nation tour. In Brunei, he'll be there for 2 days. Prime Minister Modi says that he's looking forward to strengthening ties. Defense, gas, space and healthcare are likely to be on the agenda. UAE pardons 57 Bangladeshis jailed for anti-Sheikh Hasina protests. The move comes after Mohammed Yunus's interim government made a call to UAE President last week. World Bank's robust forecast for Indian economy indicates a big thumbs up to the world's fourth largest economy. India is now the fastest growing economy in 23-24 at 8.2%. The World Bank also says that the growth will remain strong for the Indian economy. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in ICC member Mongolia despite arrest warrant. Putin says that Russia-Mongolia ties are developing in all areas, even as Ukraine says that there's been a heavy blow to international law for failure to arrest Putin since he's left Russia and is on international soil. New Zealand's security report accuses China of interference. The report says that China remains complex intelligence concern. All right, the big story that we are tracking on India Global. Prime Minister Modi has landed in Brunei Darussalam, which is a first ever bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister. And as a special gesture, the Prime Minister was received by the Crown Prince Haji Al Muhtadi Bilal. The two-day visit aims to strengthen India's ties with Brunei and commemorates 40 years of diplomatic relations between the two countries. Prime Minister Modi is in Brunei at the invitation of the Sultan, who is the second longest reigning monarch in the world following the UK's Queen Elizabeth II. The Prime Minister will be holding bilateral discussions on a variety of topics and aims to strengthen India's Act East policy, and this is part of a larger effort and a larger drive to reach out to important nations that sit on the Indo-Pacific. Let's get in my colleague Mohammad Ghazali to fill us in terms of what all is likely to be on the agenda, the next steps as far as this two-day visit is concerned. Share with us, Ghazali, what all is lined up in Prime Minister Modi's historic visit.
See, today the Prime Minister landed there in Brunei, becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to have a bilateral visit to Brunei. And why this is significant, we have stressed upon the fact that how Brunei's geopolitical location, geostrategic location, it's in the mid of the Indo-Pacific Ocean, surrounded by Malaysia, Indonesia, and maritime security remains on top of the agenda when it comes to India's Prime Minister's visit to any of the neighborhood, besides all the bilateral talks and talks hovering around the domain of space technology, health, education, cultural exchange. Now, coming to this specific visit, today the Prime Minister also visited the Indian High Commission, inaugurated a chancery, interacted with the Indian diaspora there, and after that, Indian Prime Minister is also going to visit Sultan Mosque there, an iconic mosque which was built by the father of the sitting Sultan or sitting head of the state there in Brunei, who was reportedly impressed with the Mughal architecture back in India. So that makes a special kind of attachment or India linked to that mosque visit of Indian Prime Minister in Brunei. Now, what are the talks going to be about between Indian Prime Minister and the head of the state of Brunei? One being about the space technology. Why? Because India already has a ground station in Brunei for its eastward launches of satellites, and India will now assist Brunei in space technology and research, and Brunei already having a ground station for Indian satellites, or a telemetry station is already operational there, which tracks Indian satellites. So that is one domain which India and Brunei have always have a close cooperation, but in this particular visit, India will also try to enhance defense cooperation with Brunei. There is going to be a joint working group which will be constituted after the Indian Prime Minister will meet the head of the state of Brunei tomorrow, the Sultan of Brunei. And why this is significant? The significant part is that since independence, India has been relying on European partners for defense purchase and procurement like France, Germany, US. But in the immediate neighborhood, now close cooperation of India with Singapore, with Brunei and other nations, Brunei becomes a very key partner when it also comes to the maritime security, because we know that how China has been growing its influence in the Southeast Asian region. So this particular issue of maritime security, space technology and cooperation in defense sector will be the key between the talks between Indian Prime Minister and the Sultan of Brunei.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali, thanks much for breaking that down for us. And now let's get in an important diaspora voice to really talk more about the people-to-people connect, because that's also a very important aspect of this visit. Love Shah, who's founder and CEO of Polygel Brunei, joins us live on the broadcast. Mr. Shah, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking to me. This is an important visit of the Prime Minister. There's a sizable diaspora presence as well in Brunei, and they are pretty much evenly split between the semi-skilled workers who are employed on the oil and gas front, which is a large industry, and of course the skilled professionals, particularly in the medical space, so to say. First of all, talk to us about the contribution, the impact that the Indian diaspora has as far as the economy and society of Brunei is concerned.
Good evening. So I'm very pleased to inform you that Indians have been in Brunei since the past 50, 80 years. They have earned a very high level of respect within Brunei, whether they are professionals, engineers working with oil and gas companies, or doctors, or finance professionals, bankers, etc. And then we also have a very large, let's say, worker community who contributes towards different industries, including oil and gas construction. But yeah, I mean, and Brunei on its side, the quality of life, standard of living, air quality index, it is at par with the best in the world. But most importantly, governance, law and order, etc., is really very high. So people who come to Brunei do not want to leave Brunei.
And when you talk about people-to-people connect and the diaspora linkages, they can have a cascading impact in terms of improving relations between two countries, and in this case between India and Brunei. Where do you see that actually being leveraged more? Do you see that in terms of boosting tourism to and fro? Could it also be in terms of tech linkages, B2B, business-to-business ties? How do you see all of that growing?
So we now have a direct flight starting from Brunei to India for the first time. It will be a direct flight from Brunei to Chennai starting in November, I'm told, which will enhance connectivity and linkage. Currently, it's via Singapore.
Just quickly address those shots and those footage coming in on our screens right now. That is Prime Minister Modi in Brunei. These are live shots coming in. Remember, he is in Brunei. He landed about 2 hours back Indian time, and right now he had a guard of honor welcome, and since then he's of course continuing with some of his important meetings in Brunei. Those are live shots coming in. This also comes as we mark 40 years of diplomatic relations between India and Brunei. Yes, Mr. Shah, go ahead, make your point, but I want to see those visuals on our screens, sir. But go ahead and make your point, sir.
So there is a business opportunity in downstream oil and gas, in pharmaceutical, in food, in IT, very clearly. There is room for small, medium, and large Indian companies to set up shop for Brunei and the larger Borneo market and a gateway to the ASEAN market. And companies, as we speak, companies are coming into Brunei, setting up shop as a gateway to ASEAN market. On the other hand, India can benefit from the significant oil and gas reserves, and enhance our energy security. And I believe there is some discussion on those lines as well, besides space, science and technology, etc. But as far as the diaspora is concerned, they're very well looked after, and they are very happy in Brunei. So like I said, people, who come to Brunei, they don't want to leave Brunei.
Yeah. All right. As I said, those are live visuals coming in. Prime Minister Modi had a ceremonial welcome. He was accorded a ceremonial welcome at the Brunei International Airport, and since then he's being received by senior members of the Brunei government, and of course several other leaders as well. There is a lot lined up for the Prime Minister between today and tomorrow when he leaves for Singapore, and we'll keep getting you those visuals. And Mr. Shah, quickly as we wrap up this discussion, what would be your expectation from this visit, from as a diaspora member, when it comes to exchange of skills, exchange of people? What would be your key expectation out of this?
So there's clearly an opportunity in the oil and gas sector, and if the two governments agree, there are raw materials and feedstocks available here. There's significant gas reserves, and a lot of materials that India is importing currently from other countries, including China, can be manufactured in Brunei and exported to India. So it can really enhance the energy security of India. But there is also, with more people-to-people contact and, business community meeting each other, clearly
Could be a whole
Brunei
host of
can,
things. As I said, apart from tourism, there could also be more on the Muara port. There could be also membership of Brunei as far as BIMSTEC is concerned, and also helping diversify Brunei's economy by putting in investments. That's the role that India could also play in terms of diversifying Brunei's economy away from oil and gas. Appreciate you taking out the time. And on that note, we slip into a very, very short break. We come back on the other side and talk more about the China-Bangladesh bonhomie that is increasing and its ramifications for India. Welcome back. You're watching India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Now, the second big discussion that we are having today is regarding Bangladesh and whether China is now wooing Bangladesh's Jamaat-e-Islami. Now, Chinese envoy to Bangladesh met the Jamaat leadership. Chinese envoy Yao Wen, in fact, even described Jamaat as a well-organized entity. He met Jamaat's Amir, Dr. Shafiqur Rahman, and most importantly, since 2010, this is the first foreign diplomat visiting Jamaat. So that tells you the significance of this meeting, and we ask the key questions on India Global today, that what does it mean in terms of relationship of India with Bangladesh in the midst of this volatile neighborhood, and also whether China-Bangladesh relationship is now going to raise serious security implications for India. And let me take that to my guests this evening. First up, Gunjan Singh, who's an expert on China, joining us. She's an associate professor with O.P. Jindal Global University, and Salim Samad, who's a senior journalist, joining us live from Dhaka. In fact, Mr. Samad, let me ask you this question, sir. That is there now a change in the relationship between China and Bangladesh in the wake of how Jamaat is getting treated, Jamaat-e-Islami is getting treated under the present dispensation? And do you see that having a larger impact on the China-Bangladesh bilateral relationship?
Thank you for having me. I have first thing which always, I am amazed that China, despite being an atheist or not practicing, which doesn't allow Muslims to pray or go to the mosque. And very interestingly, that most of the Islamists, including Jamaat-e-Islami, are always openly pro-China. This is for the last 50 years that I have been seeing. So that is I would not say it is a surprise. For us, it would have been a surprise if the Jamaat-e-Islami wouldn't have had a diplomatic or a high-level meeting with the Chinese ambassador. So that would have been a surprise, because all through they have always been, and you'll never find any Arab countries or any Muslim countries that ever criticize China for its appalling human rights abuse. But definitely It is not. It's
So
not a major shift.
this is about a Chinese diplomat going and meeting Jamaat-e-Islami 14 years after the last such visit took place, in a time where the leadership is declared as a terrorist and the organization is declared as a terrorist entity, its members are declared as terrorists. How do you see that equation now from a larger point of view? That's my question, sir.
Excuse me. Who has declared Jamaat-e-Islami as a terrorist party? Can you cite an example?
Okay, then what is it, sir? Please tell me what is Jamaat-e-Islami then?
Jamaat-e-Islami is most of the leaders, all the senior leaders who were involved in the war crimes in 1971 for committing crime against humanity and other issues of the war crime. They have all been tried and they have been all hanged, all of them. So these are the second generation. Most of them are born or were very, very young during 1971.
No, they were declared a terrorist entity. Some of them were facing trial for serious charges, sir, under the previous government.
No, it is only United States have declared the Chhatro Shibir, the students' wing of Jamaat-e-Islami as a terrorist organization. That's only United States. It is not in UN. But Bangladesh did ban Jamaat-e-Islami from contesting the election, and that has gone into the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has agreed. Yes, the Jamaat-e-Islami.
Okay, so we can keep debating, sir, about the kind of work that Jamaat-e-Islami does, and I would like to believe that you and I would at least be in agreement that it has nothing that furthers humanity's causes. I would like to believe that you and I are in agreement over there. Maybe we are not. Let me take that to Gunjan Singh. Gunjan, now the point is, this now raises serious implications as far as India's strategic and security calculus is concerned, because Chinese envoy, Chinese diplomatic machinery is very clearly now wooing what India perceives, America perceives as a terrorist organization.
Yeah, thanks, Gaurie, for the question. But yeah, Jamaat is considered a terrorist organization by Indians and the Americans as well. It's the way they have sheltered a lot of insurgents and all has not actually been positive for India. And under Sheikh Hasina's regime, it was banned from contesting elections because that was the move that Jamaat-e-Islami was domestically undergoing from being a violent, militant, maybe a terrorist group. It was trying to mold itself into a political organization, and that's what's going to happen now. The ban has been removed and Jamaat will be contesting elections, and that's why we see.
So does it mean that the India-Bangladesh relationship could be further strained? Because if this is how Jamaat is going to be wooed by China, if this sets the stage for Jamaat to probably contest in the next elections, it does have an impact on India-Bangladesh relationship as well. It could probably be strained further.
It will be. That was one of the factors where India's relations under Sheikh Hasina's regime had improved, because Jamaat was banned. And India does have issues with Jamaat becoming a political organization or being a member or a party in the political coalition if the next election happens. And China getting close to Jamaat actually gives a signal that China is ready to work with any organization or any political party that is in power in Bangladesh, even if it's seen as a terrorist organization and it's not acknowledged as a right political move for the region. Also, the Chinese have always said that they don't want to interfere in the domestic issue. They will deal with whoever is in power. So that goes in tune with what the China stand has been till date. And Jamaat has the ban, after the ban being removed, I think the ambassador going, there is some indication that they might be in power. China will also have to secure its investments in the region. So
I was coming to just that this of course is also meant to secure its investments, its assets, its exposure to Bangladesh. And I want to give Mr. Samad time to respond to that, sir. The two questions that I asked, and the implications in terms of the India-Bangladesh relationship, and also is it China's efforts to protect its exposure in a very volatile Bangladesh political environment?
You are right. And of course, the relationship with Bangladesh and China, that has to be sorted out, because the previous government, the Sheikh Hasina's Awami League, also had a very good relationship with China. Similarly, with Bangladesh Nationalist Party, the opposition, which is vying for to be the next to be in the power. Even Khaleda Zia's party was also had a very good, excellent relationship with China. China is worried with Bangladesh right now with interim government. Worried because Bangladesh has not committed anything with China, and the China's huge infrastructure investment which has to be paid every month. So China is very worried about that. And of course, China will not be able to get more contracts because the interim government has already reviewed and they are trying to disregard the MOUs that has been signed with China. So China is definitely worried, and China needs an ally, and Jamaat-e-Islami and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. And of course, Awami League is also an ally of China. They have a very, very good relationship.
Yes, but you know, the fact that they are both willing to do business with each other does indicate that where does pragmatism come and where does idealism end as far as this equation is concerned. But Gunjan, tell us, and you know, how do you see in terms of what should be India's next steps? Because you know, it needs to respond as you know, in a more nimble-footed manner as it can in a situation that is likely to impact and disproportionately impact its security implications.
Yeah, obviously, the situation in Bangladesh is not in India's favor right now. If the BNP and Jamaat come back to power, the relations under BNP have historically been adverse. The BNP has seen to be closer to China and Pakistan historically. And obviously, the situation with minorities have always been very adverse for minorities under the BNP rule. So the last 15 years, the relationships were good because Sheikh Hasina had very nicely managed to balance, we can say, India-China relations or India-China influence in Bangladesh. The Teesta River, the other port issues, they'd all gone in India's favor to a very large extent. But the BNP issue, Chinese talking to them, India will definitely not be able to interact with them at the same political footing. China, I don't think so. India can recognize Jamaat as a political party going ahead. And BNP looks likely that the BNP will come back to power, and historically we've not had good relations. But also you have to see that India, Bangladesh share a 4,000 kilometer long border.
They do, and which is why India needs to protect its interests. Mr. Samad, very quickly, do you expect Jamaat to also fight the upcoming elections whenever they take place? Do you expect China to back them completely? How do you see this relationship going?
First of all, you must be knowing it very well. I don't know why you have to understand that Jamaat-e-Islami cannot participate in the election. That's a Supreme Court injunction. And the Election Commission has already debarred Jamaat-e-Islami from contesting the election. As a political party, that's a different issue. I'm talking about election in the Bangladesh scenario. First of all, the Jamaat-e-Islami has to fight that Supreme Court, and it will take months and months. And I don't know how they were going to tackle it because there is no history of, in the last 52 years, that a Supreme Court decision has been overruled or overturned. So that's number one.
Okay.
Number two, of course, Jamaat-e-Islami in the previous election, whatever had been contested, they had only 6% vote. And with the 6% vote, I don't believe, and it never happened, that Jamaat-e-Islami could elect from a certain constituency with Jamaat-e-Islami vote. They have to piggyback with another political party, and that's of course the Bangladesh Nationalist Party of Khaleda Zia.
That's exactly what could change the contours of the political landscape. And what it seems like is Mohammad Yunus is not a man who's in a tearing hurry to hold these elections anytime soon. So I feel, or that's what I sense, that till these changes are made, probably those elections would not happen. I'm afraid I'm completely out of time. Appreciate both of you joining me on this edition of India Global. And with that, it's a wrap. Thanks so very much for watching.